Alright, so this is the 430 Race Edition. Somebody already bent the lever, the clutch lever, it looks like. So the 430 is not really my jam normally. I don't really like these big bore four strokes. And this one definitely feels big bore. Compared to the 390, this feels like a lumbering beast. And something that I noticed immediately after riding the two strokes is this does not seem to put the traction down quite as well. Don't really know why. Maybe it's the Race Edition suspension, this is a Race Edition. But it just feels like the back end is a little bit more all over the place. I'll try riding it a little bit differently. I'm obviously not ripping it. There's no traction to rip it. And I don't want to get killed. So I'm going to ride it a little more and form some thoughts. So I've been riding this 430 for a little bit now here on this demo loop. It's a 3-mile loop, so it's decent. All kinds of fun stuff here. I wish it wasn't so wet, but that's also a good test. So I'll start with the Ergonomics. Typical beta, immediately comfortable, immediately intuitive. I think they do this, for me anyways, the best in the business. I find these bikes ergonomically the best, except for the seat. I think the seat is really hard, and any sort of suspension issues, it exacerbates. The seat is way harder than any KTM seat, probably any seat that I have tried recently. Very hard seat. Otherwise, the bars are awesome. All the controls are in the right place. I feel immediately comfortable riding this bike. More comfortable than I do on a lot of friends' KTMs, actually. So moving on to the engine. So this is a Race Edition. I don't know if the engine is any different, but the engine is really nice. Weight feels really good. This actually feels lighter than my 350 KTM. I think because it's a little bit lower to the ground. Or actually a lot lower, probably almost 2 inches lower to the ground. And so if you're a shorter rider, that's a big bonus. If I'm on flat ground, on 511, I can flat foot this with a slight bend in my knee, sitting in the middle of the seat. And so yeah, it's a full inch shorter than a Husky or Gas, and probably almost 2 inches shorter than a KTM with a BDS. So that's a big bonus. It feels, to pick up, it feels lighter because it's a little lower to the ground. And generally riding it, it doesn't feel light because of the engine, and I'll get to that next. So the engine, if you've ever ridden a KTM 500, this is what this feels like. It doesn't really feel like so this is a 430. To me, it doesn't really feel like a 450. It feels more torquey and kind of lumbering than a 450 does. This feels more like a 500. Very different than a 390 or a 350. You can ride it a gear up, and it doesn't really have that like hit that you would have. So I don't really like that sort of power delivery, but if you like riding a torquey bike, this would be a great choice, I think. So the engine is really nice, the fueling is really nice. It doesn't flame out. Like, I could just punch it. I'm pretty low in RPMs, and I can punch it and it doesn't flame out, so that's a huge bonus. And it also doesn't throw you over the bars. If you're riding a gear up, it's not gonna immediately light the world on fire. So it's very predictable. So I really like that. And really like the brakes. I like them on all the betas. I think they're kind of like in that sweet spot between the Brembos and the Bractecs. The Nissans are on these bikes, where they have really good feel, especially for slick, tricky conditions like this. And all the levers and everything are in a great spot. Finally, the suspension. So this is the race edition with the KYBs. I've ridden a couple bikes with the open cartridge stuff already, and actually on the open cartridge I would bottom out on that jump that I just did, or little G-out thingy, and this just absorbed it. So I think the KYBs, even for this, like, I'm not hauling ass here, even for this like medium pace, the KYB is better, and it seems to even absorb some of the smaller chop better. You can still feel it, but it's not as harsh as the open cartridge Sax or ZF or whatever they're doing now stuff. So I think they really dialed in their KYB valving. It's not going to be a carpet ride like a Explorer, but you could definitely hit stuff harder. You want to go fast and you don't want to bottom out, like those little G-outs, that would bottom out the Explorer for sure. And this got pretty close, but it didn't bottom. It's just kind of a softer absorbed hit. And when we start going faster, it's a little bit more predictable. So I like this KYB. I think they maybe are starting to finally figure out the valving on it. I like it more than the standard edition suspension they have on the betas from just riding today on the same trail. KYB would be my choice. So yeah, this bike is not for me. Would it make a good dual sport bike? Maybe. It's hard to tell without actually doing a little bit higher speed, but it's really easy to ride despite being kind of big. Power wise, power is really like fairly gentle if you don't rev it out, and yeah, I like it.